it just felt like, what? Like, is this fun for him? Is this a test?
Pines bring.
Well, I mean, inmates have procedures all the time. I mean, you have folks there with cancer, you have folks there with, serious other chronic diseases. And sometimes it does require individuals to have surgery even while they're on pretrial status. So,
what if the most dangerous place for Diddy right now isn't the courtroom at all, but the rumors spreading around his prison cell? That's exactly where things went when Joe Rogan made a claim so explosive it pushed the entire case back into the spotlight. On a recent episode, Rogan suggested that Diddy had been infected with HIV in prison after being assaulted by other inmates. We've seen outrageous allegations come and go around Diddy for years, but this one caught fire because of how specific it sounded and because it fit into the public's image of MDC Brooklyn as a tense, unpredictable environment. But even as the clip went viral, people connected to the investigation made one thing clear: there is no medical evidence supporting the claim. Still, the fact that someone with Rogan's influence even said it shows how fragile Diddy's situation has become since he was first taken into federal custody in September 2024.
Concerned that Sean Diddy Combs could be assaulted, violently assaulted. Is that a thing? Because based on what was said in court, it feels like.
What we can say for sure is that this frenzy didn't come out of nowhere. It exploded at a time when Diddy's physical safety behind bars was already under national scrutiny. And when you mix that with a public eager for any sign that the once untouchable mogul is falling apart, even the smallest whisper becomes a headline. Rogan never presented his allegation as confirmed. His team hasn't issued a statement, and medical privacy laws make official verification impossible. But the speed at which the rumor spread tells us something important about Diddy's position today. People are ready to believe the worst, and the seriousness of the claim alone made it impossible for the media to ignore. What truly sent the narrative into overdrive was the timing. Just weeks earlier, during Diddy's July 2025 sentencing, his longtime friend, Charlotte Finney, described a terrifying nighttime attack inside MDC Brooklyn details that stunned the entire courtroom. According to Finney, and backed by sources familiar with the incident, Diddy woke up to a makeshift blade pressed against his neck while he slept in the 4 North unit. It happened before sunrise in a dorm crowded with roughly 20 other inmates. To this day, no one can say for certain whether a guard stepped in first or whether Diddy woke up and pushed the attacker away on his own. The official account came from attorney Brian Steele, who told the judge that an officer stopped the shiv-wielding inmate in time. Finney's version was blunt and unforgettable. He woke up with a knife to his throat. It was one of the few lines the court allowed into the recorded. It was enough to change the entire atmosphere in seconds.
He claimed that somebody held a knife to his throat. He woke up and this guy basically had him and he had the knife, and Diddy was at this person's mercy. Now, it's unclear what exactly happened from there. Was there a guard that came in? Did Diddy somehow fight this person off? Well, seems unlikely that happened. Or did the person just leave? Bottom line, this guy, at least according to people close to Diddy and Diddy himself, could have hurt him badly or even taken his.
The location matters here. MDC Brooklyn has been described as everything from difficult to hell on earth, and those aren't exact. The facility has struggled with overcrowding, freezing conditions during the 2019 power outage, frequent violence, and more recently photos shared by defense teams that appeared to show food trays infested with insects. A Bureau of Prison spokesperson denied that the February 2025 photo actually showed bugs. But defense attorneys like Sabrina Schroe argued that the problem has been around for years. This is the same facility where Edwin Cordio was killed in a FIDA case that drew national attention last summer. So when someone ends up in a place with that kind of reputation, it's easy to understand why Rogan's rumors spread so quickly. The environment itself encourages speculation. And behind the knife incident, there was another important detail. Finney, who has visited MDC many times, explained that anyone charged with intimate misconduct-related offenses is marked as a target. He said he's lost sleep over it, worrying that some inmates take cases like Diddy's personally and try to settle them on their own. It's also worth remembering that Diddy was acquitted of the most serious charges during his 8-week trial. But in July, he was convicted on 2 counts of transporting individuals for inappropriate encounters. That nuance often gets lost. Public perception doesn't run on fine print, it runs on headlines. And the headlines around Diddy haven't stopped, especially after TMZ reported in late 2024 that Donald Trump had considered a pardon request, a claim the White House publicly denied.
If the
In
judge,
October, right.
In October, October 3rd, if the judge denies bail, then Trump is going to make a decision possibly immediately thereafter.
Most likely, the judge is going to, based on
I don't know.
previous decisions, it feels like the judge is going to.
Throughout all of this, Diddy has tried to present himself as a man in the middle of a transformation. Right before his sentencing, he wrote to Judge Arun Subramanian, explaining that he'd been taking self-improvement classes and teaching business basics to other inmates. While at MDC, he created a 6-week program called Free Game, which earned positive feedback from case managers and assistant wardens who watched him bring together groups that normally didn't mix inside. For North's communal space, by October 2025, he was already talking about expanding the program to juvenile centers once he was released. And when former inmate Raymond Castillo spoke to Us Weekly in November 2025, he said the class gave men a sense of direction they hadn't felt in years. But here's where the contradictions begin to stand out. Prosecutors argued that Diddy was still breaking rules, even while claiming personal growth. They said he bought phone minutes from other inmates and made unapproved third-party calls. CBS News reported in November 2025 that he had allegedly joined a 3-way phone call. Just days before being moved to FCI Fort Dix, his team argued that the call was initiated by an attorney and was protected under legal privilege. Then came a separate claim that he had access to homemade fermented drinks at Fort Dix only a week into his stay. His spokesperson called that accusation completely false. The Bureau of Prisons never publicly explained the details, but by mid-November 2025, Diddy's release date had quietly been moved from May 8, 2028 to June 4, 2028. The nearly 1-month delay arrived without any official explanation.
Diddy's knee has been bothering him recently, so he reported it. At some point, it was decided that he needed medical care outside of the jail, so he was taken to a Brooklyn hospital.
So now we're left with a picture of a man who says he's committed to healing, discipline, and unity, yet he keeps getting written up for rule violations that push his release date further away. And we can't pretend those mixed messages don't fuel the public narrative. When someone is sent to prison for high-profile misconduct, every decision they make gets interpreted as proof of who they really are. Is his entrepreneurship program a sign of real personal growth, or is it an attempt to show good behavior for the appeals process? Are the alleged rule violations the result of entitlement, frustration, or simply trying to navigate a chaotic environment? And then there's the rumor mill. The way insiders have folded Rogan's HIV claim into a broader pattern of prison gossip tells us how quickly speculation spreads when someone's reputation is already crumbling. Meanwhile, Diddy's legal battle is already underway. His attorneys filed the appeal paperwork the same day the White House publicly dismissed the pardon story. They argue the judge went too far in extending his sentence, especially since the jury acquitted him on several major charges, including racketeering. They continue to insist he never intended to hurt anyone. The irony is that while his lawyers fight to shorten his time, the system holding him seems to be quietly pushing that time forward. It's turned into a tug-of-war, a legal team trying to rebuild him as a man on a new path, and a correctional system that keeps flagging him for missteps that reinforce the opposite image.
So here's what I thought he was going to say. Your Honor, and he does his whole apology and remorse and all of that, and he does it all. And then at the end, he says this. Your Honor, respectfully, I would like to say that I now understand what President Trump was saying when he said that the Justice Department was weaponized against him.
All of this leads back to the darkest question raised by Rogan's viral comment. Because once people start believing Diddy's health is failing, whether the rumor is true or not, the story shifts from punishment to containment. If MDC Brooklyn was already damaging, and if Fort Dix is now where new rule violations are appearing, then every extra month on a sentence starts to feel heavier. When you combine that with the appeals, the ongoing lawsuits, the growing pressure around his name, and the uncertainty about his physical condition, it becomes clearer why his legal team seems to be fighting for more than just a shorter sentence. At this point, it feels like they're fighting against something far more urgent, especially as insiders quietly suggest that time may be running out faster than the public realizes. And right when the tension reaches its peak, a new development appears and forces us to rethink what his team may actually be trying to prevent. Is Diddy slipping toward a physical or emotional collapse in prison? That's the question hanging over everything. It's the one nobody in his circle will address. Not even as Rogan's HIV rumor keeps spreading across the internet. The silence has become its own kind of answer. No public denial from his lawyers. No legal threats. No angry statement from a man who once controlled every headline from his fragrances to his white parties, to every carefully planned comeback. And that's what makes the moment so striking. The mogul who used to seize control of every narrative now stands completely silent while this rumor grows, bigger than the charges that put him behind bars.
Why should I care? He did a whole lot of a whole lot of people. And now he's paying for it. So all these cats, I guess y'all get y'all visitation rights. Some of y'all can get y'all conjugal visits right with him.
That silence only grew louder when Diddy was moved from MDC Brooklyn to FCI Fort Dix in late October 2025. On paper, Fort Dix looks like a fresh start, less violence, more structure, cleaner living areas, and programs designed for rehabilitation. It's the kind of facility defense teams request when they want to show that their client is focused on rebuilding, not falling deeper into trouble. But insiders who have followed Diddy's situation since September 2024 tell a different story. They say this wasn't a new beginning, it was a rescue. MDC had become too dangerous, a place where a high-profile, aging inmate with sensitive charges was one attack away from disappearing forever. And even though Fort Dix feels calmer, it's still a prison. The walls are cleaner, but they're still walls. The rules are stricter, the monitoring is closer, and the legal pressure surrounding him hasn't eased. At 56, with gray hair showing in his November mugshot, those who've seen him say the stress is starting to show. Meanwhile, the larger story behind these last 13 months refuses to fade. Every allegation that's followed him since the 2000s. Every industry rumor about violence. Every claim from the Cassie Ventura case, including the years of intimidation, and the infamous freak-off nights, all of it is returning to the surface. Even though he was acquitted of the most severe trafficking charges, the public doesn't separate details. They remember everything as one continuous pattern. So when Rogan connects Diddy's current condition to what he calls decades of silence, the narrative starts to feel unavoidable. A man who built an empire by controlling every room, every relationship, every moment, is now living in a place where he controls nothing. Not his safety, not his health, not even the story being told about him.
Same kind of extortion that we heard when Cassie took the stand and testified on that airplane ride back from France. Diddy said, "You don't do a freak off, I'm going to release one of the freak off videos that you are profiled in." And
the tension around Diddy's legacy is what makes this moment feel so unstable. For years, he shaped hip-hop, fashion, and nightlife. He launched careers, signed huge deals, and built an image of a man who could never be touched. But everything shifted after the 2016 hallway footage resurfaced in 2024, followed by more than 100 lawsuits accusing him of manipulation and misconduct dating all the way back to 1991. Since then, the narrative has hardened. We're watching someone who once used power as a shield, now stripped of nearly every protection he once had. And even if the rumors about his health are exaggerated, stress alone can break a person down faster than most people realize. Constant legal battles, civil claims piling up, and a sentence that runs into 2028 all take their toll. Fort Dix may be calmer than MDC, but it's still far from freedom. Insiders are already saying he looks thinner, quieter, and far less confident than the man who once called himself unstoppable. The clearest cracks appear when we look at the prison curriculum he helped create, especially the lesson focused on removing ego. On paper, it looks like the outline of someone trying to strip away pride and control, pushing others to find humility in a place built to humble everyone. From someone else, it would seem inspiring. But given Diddy's past, it lands differently. His entire career, from the early bad boy days to his luxury brand empire, was built on projecting dominance and invincibility. So when we look at this no-ego philosophy, we have to ask, is this real reflection or strategic image building? Is it genuine self-awareness or another carefully designed presentation aimed at counselors, wardens, and judges? The contradiction becomes sharper when we compare his coursework to the whispers about his behavior inside both facilities. While he promotes discipline and transparency, he's still surrounded by reports of unauthorized three-way calls and that fermented drink incident that spread during his first week at Fort Dix. His team says these storylines are exaggerated or misunderstood, but the gap between his teachings and his reported behavior is hard to ignore. We're watching a man preach structure while allegedly bending rules, and it forces us to confront the bigger question: which version of Diddy is real? A man slipping back into old habits under stress, or someone simply unable to let go of the sense of exceptionality that defined his entire life?